For example, 2 points can be connected by a straight line. That's postulate 1 of geometry. And then any straight line can be extended indefinitely. That's another point. And then 3, whenever you have a straight line, you can draw a circle using the straight line as a radius. And then number 4, all right angles are congruent. That means they're all equal. They're all 90 degrees. So those 4 are postulates or principles are called absolute geometry. Now what's interesting is no one can prove that they're true. They're accepted on faith. But if you accept them, then you can do geometry. You can do so many things with them. Okay, so then there's a 5th postulate. It's a little bit complicated. But anyway, what we can understand is none of these things can be proven to be true, but you can't do geometry without them. Okay, so there was and this brings up the question of faith and knowledge. Does anyone remember what I have said before about which comes first, faith or knowledge? Huh? Okay. Can you give an example? Yes? Well, yeah, geometry, because I just explained it, but no, there's more realistic examples here.
I think that's knowledge because...
What?
I think because basically, what is first...
Okay, we need a microphone here.
So I think that what comes first in truth and knowledge, I think knowledge comes first.
Okay, wait a minute. He started his statement with, I think. Whenever you start a statement with, I think, it means I stink. It's speculation. You don't know if it's true. But anyway, continue your speculation. Go ahead. Or your stink. Go ahead.
Because knowledge is basically like you have to know how to explain it, because if you have blind following, then you could just follow somebody saying if you jump off a cliff you'll get like $1 billion. So you have to actually ask them why. How can you get it? And if they say yes, if this is the right answer, then maybe you can follow them, but they wouldn't say. They wouldn't have any answers to say for you to jump off.
Okay, now who understood what he said? Can anyone explain what he said? You did? You understood what he said? Okay, go ahead. Give him the microphone. It was the second stink today.
He said that, like, if somebody jumps off a cliff and gets like $1 billion.
Did you say that?
I said if a person tells you to jump off a cliff, and if you do that you get $1 billion, you have to ask them why. How can you get it?
So how does that prove that knowledge comes before faith?
Because you have to actually, I'm not explaining, but you have to have, you have to know what's going to.
You have to have knowledge to like tell you're gonna die if you jump off a cliff.
Okay, so can anyone defeat that argument?
Yeah.
You can? How do you defeat that argument? Speak into the microphone so we can hear you stink.
Because, what's it called? Because, like, you're gonna die if you jump off a cliff.
Well, it depends how high the cliff is. What if the cliff is only 1 foot high? Will you
Yeah,
die?
I would jump off it.
Yes? All right. Microphone. And now the question is, who can defeat this statement of Advait and Mayapur?
I think that they.
I think. I stink. I stink. Yes.
A better way to explain it is
Hold it up to the microphone.
A better way to explain it is that if to have faith, you first need to know about it. So, like, if someone asks you to come and join their Christian church, you would have to know
about their religious practices and things like that to go and join it. You need to know about it before you do it.
Oh, so you're supporting what Advait said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I said it's the second stink. Okay, who's the third stink? Yes, go ahead.
So when you learn like Krishna consciousness, like you need to like believe in Krishna before you like actually like get deep into Krishna consciousness.
Okay, now this is not a stink now. She's going the other way. She says faith comes first. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, side microphone for side.
The person is gonna give you $1 billion when you jump. You have to have faith in the person to give the $1 billion once you jump off. So, like the knowledge is getting the $1 billion from the person, and the faith is knowing that the person will give the $1 billion.
That's the third stink. Yes. Okay. So, all right, go ahead. We have 3 stinks and 1 valid point. Go ahead.
So wait,
Well, let Yamuna speak. See, you already spoke.
When you get into Krishna consciousness,
Your microphone's not on.
so when you get into Krishna consciousness, you can't like learn all the like the Vedas, like Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, without like actually believing in Krishna, right?
so you have to first have faith in Krishna.
You have to first like have faith in Krishna, and then like you can actually like understand whatever, like then you can actually like have more like better knowledge about Krishna.
Okay. What's Yamuna going to say?
So if you're saying that knowledge comes first, but then like if, for example, Advait's example, his like if someone tells you to jump off a cliff,
Well, someone tells you to jump off a cliff and you'll get $1 million or $1 billion.
okay, for example, it's like a long, like a tall cliff, then like first you use your common
And what does your common sense say?
sense says that a normal person would die if they jumped off a cliff. So like don't jump off a cliff.
Okay, so if someone does jump off a cliff, what does that mean?
That means they're stupid.
Have any comments?
That means they're taking a risk. They're hoping that they're going to survive to get the $1 billion. Or let's say the person says, "I'll give your family $1 billion if you jump off the cliff."
Well, then you know that he's gonna die, and then if you want money for your family, then just jump off the cliff and die.
But see, now we come back to the question: does he actually have faith that that man will give $1 billion to his family?
Yeah, that's why you have to have faith first in that person. Like when you're taking a risk
you're having faith. Like, okay, I believe in this person. Like Shivani's example. First, you have to believe in Krishna.
But
to
can you
read the
believe? Can you
Vedas.
believe? Can you believe people?
Can you believe?
I'll give you an example. The biggest mafia guy in Russia. I forget his name. It starts with an M. He's a Jewish man, and at one point, many Jewish people were leaving Russia to move to Israel, but they had a problem about getting their money out of Russia. So he promised them, "You give me your money. I have a company in Russia. As soon as you get there, I'll give you the money in Israel. You give me the money here in Russia, I'll give you the money in Israel." So a lot of people gave him all their money. When they got to Israel, guess what happened? He didn't give them a penny, and they couldn't go back to Russia, and and they couldn't go into a court in Russia and try and get their money back because the whole thing was illegal. See? So they lost everything, and he became a rich man overnight.
But how much money did he get?
He got hundreds and millions of dollars because people believed him. Okay, he was also a Jewish guy, right? Like the people, and they believed him, and he cheated all of them. So okay, so let's. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so when someone's a good person, then you can trust them. So like when
You
someone's
can?
a good person.
You
no,
can?
no, wait. So
What's a good person?
No,
How do you
so-
define a good person? Like what?
qualities,
Like what?
like truthfulness and like kindness to everyone, and like
Well, that's what these people believed in Russia. They thought that he was one of them, and he was an honest guy, and he would never cheat them. But they didn't know. They didn't know that. They didn't care. They thought, yeah, he's part of the mafia. That's why he has a way of getting the money out and giving it to us. But
I know
he's
that,
one
but-
of us. They trusted him.
yeah, but see when you're okay. So if they
The mafias are always up to something bad. So like you can't trust someone in the mafia.
How do you know that?
That's why you
use your common sense, like the mafia is bad. Don't trust a person from the mafia.
Okay, Advait, give you a chance. Go ahead.
I agree with what Yamuna said, but because if you're like a devotee of the Lord, then maybe you could have faith in them that they'll actually give it to your family like that. But if they're like an imposter and everything, then you can't give it.
If they're what?
If they're like an imposter, like if they're
If they're what?
If they're pretending imposter.
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 Okay. Okay.
If they're pretending to be a devotee, but they're actually not a devotee, they're like doing they're breaking all the 4 regulated principles.
Then you can't trust
Yeah,
them.
then you can't trust them.
Okay. Well, now your stink is starting to smell good. What is Mayapur going to say?
Because like you were talking about a cliff in India.
What?
In India,
Yeah.
me and Yamuna, like everybody jumped off a cliff. So like
You jumped off a cliff?
yeah, and after it was like
Did you land on your head?
no.
Okay. So let me give. All right. Go ahead.
You would need both faith and knowledge at the same time. Neither of them should come first in order for like you to know things.
That's what you call a compromise statement, hoping that by connecting both ends of the question, you're going to get it right. But that's not true. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say Advait, don't put the Bhagavad Gita on the ground. Let's say Advait wants to go to India, so he goes online and buys a ticket to go to India. Does Advait know for sure that the plane will land safely? No. What if the ticket agent tells you, don't buy the ticket on this flight, it's going to crash? You won't. Okay. So what if the ticket agent doesn't say anything? Will you buy the ticket?
Yeah. Because you don't know.
Well, no, not because you don't know. You don't know, and you will not know until the plane lands safely. But you have faith that the plane will land safely. That's why you buy the ticket. If someone puts a doubt in your mind, will you buy the ticket? No, if the ticket agent said, hey, Sonny, don't buy this ticket on this flight because it's going to crash, he would not buy the ticket. You would not have faith. The person broke your faith. So you see, but even if you have faith that the plane is going to land safely, you still don't know for sure until when? Until it lands. So your whole endeavor was based on faith before knowledge. You only have the knowledge once the plane lands. Right? Okay, go ahead. You want to say something?
Like if you're on the flight, you need to have knowledge, like looking at all the records saying that that show that most of these planes, like 98% of them were like have landed safely. So that's when you get the faith, but it's like mostly also common sense.
But what if the plane that you take is in the 2%?
It's more unlikely.
This is called Russian roulette. You know what Russian roulette is? You have a gun with 6 bullets, right? So they take 5 bullets out and there's only 1 bullet. So the game is you have to point the gun like this and pull the trigger. Right? It's called Russian roulette. Roulette is gambling, right? So there's only 1 bullet, but there's 6 chambers in the gun. So you don't know if you're going to die or not. You go, and you hope you don't die. And if you don't, you feel relieved. Then the next person has to go.
Wait. 6 persons going to die.
What?
6 persons going to die.
Well, you don't know. It might be the second person.
Why?
It could be the first person. It could be the third person. It could be the fourth person. You don't know. So what they do is, after the first person, then they scramble the bullets again. So you don't know. And then the second person, and you go like this, Hare Krishna. So that's called Russian roulette. You know, you don't know if the flight you're going to take is in the 2% or the 98%. Right?
Yeah.
You don't know if the flight you're going to take is in the 2% or the 98%.
But it's more unlikely than likely, right?
It's like this, the Russian roulette. You know, you're not sure.
But if you take out 5 bullets, then like obviously the last one's gonna be the 6th one, right?
No.
They can change the bullet. They can keep on pulling the trigger until it's at a certain point.
6 chambers. If 6 people are playing and 5 of them survive, isn't that one thing?
Yeah, I know, but it could be the other way around. What if the first person survived?
No. Sometimes crazy people play games like that, just like, you know, jumping off a cliff, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we establish that faith always precedes knowledge. Faith always precedes knowledge. Okay? You will not begin any activity. Stop that, Mayapur. You will not begin any activity unless you have faith that you can succeed. Like, for example, you say, okay, let's go hiking today. Right? So you have faith that you'll go hiking and you'll come back in one piece. Right? Don't laugh. I performed funerals for several times. These employees of Microsoft went on a hike. They slipped and they killed themselves. Fell off a cliff. It was an accident. Or even one of our own devotees went on a hike and he broke his ankle. Right? Huh? Which devotee? So, did he expect to break his ankle? No. He had faith that he's going to go and come back in one piece. And he came back in two pieces. Right? So, faith always precedes an act. If you don't have faith that your proposed activity will be successful, you won't do it. You just won't do it because you have to have that faith that you can succeed. Okay, so there was. So I gave the example of Euclidean geometry. It's based on 5 postulates, but you can't prove them. No, they've never been proven to be absolutely true. But if you accept them, then you can solve a lot of problems. And so around about 110 years ago, different mathematicians and philosophers were looking for what's called the theory of everything. They thought that the universe follows mathematical laws, and therefore, put the car over here. What? But not here, right? You're going to go downstairs, right? Yeah, okay. You scared me. I thought you were going to do something here. Okay, so no, you're going to see right now, Mayapur. So we're going to do some research. So the mathematicians and the philosophers, they were looking for the theory of everything. Because they knew that, or at least their experience was that nature follows mathematical laws. That was stated by Pythagoras 2,500 years ago. He was a mathematician. He was actually a yogi. He had an ashram. Are you listening, Hari? Who was I talking about? Okay, what was he? Invented what? Death? What did you say? Yes. Okay. So, Pythagoras' theory was that the universe follows mathematical laws. But for 2,500 years, the mathematicians were not able to prove everything. Like, for example, the 5 postulates of Euclid, they were not able to prove that it's absolutely true, mathematically. Now, question. Why is it? Now you have to think about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. We discussed this when I gave lectures on epistemology. First of all, who knows what epistemology means? Yes.
I don't know.
Microphone. Microphone. It's what?
It's when you know if something's true or false. The knowledge to know something if it's true or false.
Yeah. Epistemology means understanding if something is true, or if it's not true, it's false. So, if you accept something as true on faith and use that to solve problems, that is a let's call it an open hole in your whole math or science, because math and science are based on the fact that the universe follows laws. And what do scientists and mathematicians do? They discover certain laws of nature, and they think that these laws are uniform, consistent, and complete. But they can't prove that they're complete. Okay, now, coming back to Vedic epistemology, the science of how you know if something is true. Do you remember what we discussed? This was back in the summer. Okay, go ahead.
Discuss 3 ways of knowing something.
Yes.
One is anumana, and then shabda pramana. Shabda pramana. Yeah, 3 pramanas. And then there's so there's anumana, shabda pramana, and then
Pratyaksha.
Oh yeah, pratyaksha.
Yeah.
Pratyaksha.
Advait said pratyaksha. So what is pratyaksha, Advait?
The only thing I don't know what it means, but
Okay, well, that's why we're going over it today. You know what pratyaksha is, Yamuna?
Is it when you I'm not 100% sure, but is it when you see something and then you predict, like, no, by your
No,
senses?
you just see something.
Yeah, you see something.
People believe seeing is believing. Is that true? Seeing is believing?
No.
No. So pratyaksha cannot give you perfect knowledge, but it can give you some knowledge.
Yeah.
In certain instances, okay? And what is anumana?
Anumana is...
Anybody else know besides Yamuna? Come on, you know, Prabhu. Shivani, you know, you've answered this question before. Anumana.
Oh, anumana?
Yes.
Oh yeah, anumana means a guess.
Well,
yeah,
yes, it's okay. So, there. Can you give an example?
Okay, so
if you see something, then you can guess that there's something else happening. What is that example?
So,
okay,
so
go ahead. Let Vishaka. Go ahead.
When you see smoke, like fire, you can like infer or you can like predict that there's a fire nearby.
Yes. Is it perfect? Is it so? Is it? There's 2 things. It's something is consistent, and something is complete. And if something is consistent and complete, then it's proven to be absolutely true. Is anumana consistent? Well, most of the time it is. Whenever there's smoke, there's usually fire.
But like, remember the time when you saw? Yeah, remember the time when you were in Sankirtan, and then you saw this like cloud next to this mountain, and looked like it looked exactly like smoke, but
Right.
actually it wasn't. So like, it's not always consistent.
Exactly right. So anumana is not complete. Right. It's mostly consistent, but is never complete. So can you achieve perfect knowledge with pratyaksha and anumana? No. So pratyaksha is direct observation, and anumana is called inference. Inference. Now, you use that term infer, right? What does it mean, infer or inference?
It means like a educated guess.
Yeah.
With like background knowledge.
Based on personal experience, if you see smoke, you would assume that there's fire. But there's an example. I saw what looked exactly like smoke, but it was not a fire. It was a cloud. But it looked exactly like smoke. Okay, so that's called inductive reasoning, when you infer things. Now, inductive reasoning, or the inductive process, is the scientific process. Who can explain what what materialistic scientific process is then? Okay, Sai. Microphone for Sai.
First, there is a hypothesis. Their guess on what the outcome of the experiment is going to be.
Okay, this is experiments, right? Based on a hypothesis, a guess. Right, an educated guess. Right, and then, wait a minute, that's not over now. No, then what happens? Go ahead, explain it.
Forgot the next steps.
Then they speculate.
No, they don't speculate. No, you make a bunch of experiments. Then what are you looking for in those experiments? Yes, probably.
Isn't it an observation?
What?
Observation?
It's observation, but you did a lot of experiments, right? Based on the hypothesis that you have. Like, for example, I'm guessing that all people will die. So then I do some experiments. I go and read the history of different people. And every history I read, they died. That person died. So then, I can't experiment with all people, but I did, let's say I analyzed 5,000 people, and they were all born and they died. So what's next? What conclusion do I come to? Yes?
In all the experiments, you try to find the one consistent answer. One,
let's call it one tendency, right? What's the tendency?
That everyone dies.
They all died, right? So then what conclusion can I come to?
That everyone dies.
That everyone dies. Am I absolutely sure?
Yes.
No, I'm not sure.
Experiment-wise, no, but...
No, because I didn't experiment everyone. I only did one group of people. So the inductive process, which is the scientific process, is not perfect. It's not perfect, but it can give you some knowledge. Right? So, what is the perfect way of achieving knowledge? Yes. Microphone.
Perfect way of achieving knowledge is through Shabda, because Shabda...
Okay, what does Shabda mean?
Shabda means Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge was taught by Krishna. So it's direct knowledge from Krishna.
Any examples?
Any example, Bhagavad Gita.
No, but I know Bhagavad Gita, but any specific example?
Oh, in the Bhagavad Gita...
It's not necessarily Bhagavad Gita, but in the Vedas.
In the Vedas, okay, in the Vedas, it's... Yeah, in the Vedas it says that everyone goes through birth, death, old age, and disease. And then everyone actually does that.
Yeah. But Prabhupada gives the example of cow dung. What's that example? Anybody know? The example of cow dung? Yes? Advait? Huh?
Okay, so the example is that cow dung is basically like the poop of an animal, but it's also of a cow. But but normally if it was like our poop, then it would have been contaminated. But in the cow's case, it's not contaminated because the cow is a holy animal.
Okay, so can you give the microphone to Sai?
And normally, any animals, poop is considered very, inauspicious, or considered very, for like scientists, they don't take that as, But for us, Prabhupada told us that the cow dung has lots of medicinal properties, and the scientists don't recognize that. So
no, some scientists do. Cow dung was analyzed by scientists in India, and they wanted to see if what the Vedas say is true or not, and they found out that cow dung has antiseptic properties. Okay, so it's used. Cow dung is used to make houses in India, to purify unclean places. It's used on wounds. It's used in many therapeutic ways because it has therapeutic and antiseptic qualities. So, but it defies logic, because the dung or the stool of human beings and all animals is full of toxic germs. But here's this one thing that's not, So it defies logic. Yes, Mayapur.
And in India, they make like all these what's it called again? Like tents, not tents,
Huts.
Huts. And they put cow dung and after wood sticks, and after it blocks them from radiation.
Yeah.
And yeah,
they use the cow dung every day to clean and their house, and also by using it every day and then it dries, it builds up the layers, it thickens the walls. So if it dries properly, then and then if it rains a lot, then they replenish the walls again when the dry season comes. Also, cow dung, when you burn it, it keeps away mosquitoes and bugs. It does a lot of good things. Okay.
And some people use it as soap, and some people.
We have some cow dung soap here. Yeah. Okay, so yes, Shiva.
This is just like off-topic question, but what did you say about inference? Like when you infer, what is it called?
Well, the Sanskrit name is Anumana.
No. Like it's generally, like what is? You said something. Like
it's the inductive process. Inductive. Inductive. But in spiritual life, we use the deductive process. So the inductive process is going from the general to the specific, and the deductive process is going from the specific to the general. So one is called Aroha Panta, which is called ascending. Inductive process is ascending, and Avaroha Panta is descending. So therefore, Krishna says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur. Let's look at that. Second chapter, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur. I'm going to tell you 1 second. 27. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmat apariharye rite natvam sochitam arhasi. Second chapter, 27th verse. So now we're going to start doing our Bhagavad Gita research. Here it says, one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So, here's a verse where Prabhupada says, anyone who's born in the material world with a material body is destined to die. And when they die, they'll take birth again, either in the material world or in the spiritual world. If they take birth again in the spiritual world, then they'll never die. They'll have a spiritual body. If they take birth again in the material world, they're going to again have a material body and they're subject to death. Okay? So, if you begin with this axiomatic truth, what's an axiomatic truth? We've discussed this before. Okay, Advait?
I think what axiomatic truth means that axiomatic truth means that it's basically, you can't prove it, but it's true. It's not true. You could you give the example of a Euclidean geometry, right?
No, you're way off. You were getting close, then you went way off. Anybody know what an axiomatic truth is? Yes, Yamuna.
It's self-evident truth.
Exactly. What does that mean? What does it mean,
It means that it has its own proof behind itself.
Well, if something is self-evident, like for example, if I say you have a nose, would you argue against that?
No.
Why?
because I do have a nose and I can breathe.
So it's self-evident.
If I didn't have a nose, then I couldn't breathe.
Yeah. Okay, so is this a self-evident truth? One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. So therefore, you could assume that all men are mortal based on this. And then you say, Mayapur is a man. So what can we now know about Mayapur? Mayapur is mortal. Mortal means you'll eventually die. Also, I will die. We'll all die. So, but not our soul, but the body, because the body is temporary. The soul is eternal, but the body is temporary. Okay. Now, when in the second research, how do we know the soul is eternal? What verse?
I don't know.
Second chapter.
Chapter 13 verse. 13.
It's actually second chapter, 20th verse. Najayate mriyate vakadachin nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuya ajo nityam sasvatam yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sarire. For the soul.
Neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing. He is not slain.
Slain.
Okay, so you see, this is another axiomatic truth. It's self-evident, or at least because for devotees, maybe the atheists try and disprove it, but for devotees, it's self-evident. Okay, what is your question, Mayapur?
But like Brahma, is he eternal?
No. Not, well, his soul is, but his body is not.
So he dies and after takes birth again in the same form?
No, he can go back to Godhead and have a spiritual body.
Yeah, different person becomes
Brahma is what you call a titular position. It's a title position, just like President of the United States. Is the President of the United States always the same person?
No.
So it's a title position. So Brahma is also a title position.
Oh, so you're meaning that...
Different people can hold that position. Not at the same time, but at different times.
So, I can...
And by the way, there's a Brahma in every universe, so there's billions of Brahmas. It's not just one. Okay, yes.
But like for example, like one Brahma, after he dies, a new Brahma will come. So does that new Brahma accumulate the knowledge of the past Brahma? Like,
that's a good question. If you read the history of Brahma in the Brahma Samhita, he attains that position by meditating for 1,000 celestial years, and eventually he hears Krishna's flute, and when he hears the flute of Krishna, he becomes enlightened with knowledge, understanding that he's the eternal servant of the Lord. Okay. And Brahma, the position of Brahma is usually taken by the most advanced devotee in the universe, but that devotee still has a little bit of a desire to dominate. So instead of going back to the spiritual world, he's given the position of Brahma, and he's given a chance to purify that final little speck of attachment.
So, when you die, if you say Brahma, you're going to be Brahma?
No. Okay, so now we're going to hear something. This was a preliminary discussion. Now we're going to hear something very, very interesting. As I said, the mathematicians were looking for the theory of everything. And they thought they were very close to getting it, especially around 1910, 1915. There were some mathematicians called Bertrand Russell, and another one named Whitehead, and another one named Hilbert, and another one named Wittgenstein. They were sure that they were very close to having the theory of everything. But then, in 1931, another younger mathematician came along, and his name was Kurt Gödel. Have you ever? No, Gödel. Huh? Yeah, I began to speak about it yesterday. And he was a German mathematician, and he came up with a theory called the incompleteness theorem. And it wasn't a theory. Okay, no playing. Just listen. It was not a theory. He actually proved mathematically that you can draw a circle around something. Let's say you draw a circle around psi, right? And now psi is inside the circle, okay? Now it's a fact that psi cannot really explain who psi actually is. Is that true or not true?
With Vedic knowledge, maybe I can explain.
Okay, no. Without Vedic knowledge, can you explain who you are? No. You would have to go outside the circle to figure out who you are. You have to get some information from outside the circle, right? So, Gödel proved mathematically that you cannot achieve complete knowledge, no matter how much or how intelligent you are. You'll never. You can understand consistent knowledge, just like the law of gravity. Every time you throw something up, it comes down. So it happens every time, but you can't explain exactly what is the law of gravity without going outside that circle of knowledge that you have.
In the spiritual world, when you throw a ball, does it go just up or there's still gravity?
Now, in the spiritual world, everything goes toward Krishna.
So that means it'll go towards Krishna.
So then I'll just go like right through Krishna?
Well, let's put it like this. It would, like if you throw a ball up now, let's say you throw the ball up. Okay, what happens?
It goes down.
Okay, so where does the ball go? Right. But in the spiritual world, everything will go toward Krishna. Which means that Krishna is the center of all thought, activity, desire, and so forth. Whereas this ball here, you threw it up and it came down on the ground. So does that mean the ball is Krishna conscious? No. But in the spiritual world, there are balls in the spiritual world. They're all Krishna conscious. What? Yeah. Yes.
Do they have...
No, but in the spiritual world they would be conscious. Is that ball that you're holding now conscious?
Oh, no.
No, it's not conscious. How do you know it's not conscious?
Because you're not talking back.
That's right. It's not talking back to you. Okay. Yes. Yes, Vishaka.
But like, do the balls there like go to your will? Like, for example, if you throw it up and you like want it to be like a balloon or something, will it just float away, or like will it like go to Krishna? Yeah, like float. No.
In the spiritual world, everything is attracted to Krishna.
I have a question.
Wait a minute. Yes.
I know, but what if you want to play with the ball? Like, what if you throw the ball and the ball goes up to Krishna, but then you like want to play with the ball?
Well, guess what? When they play with Krishna and Goloka, what happens?
Oh.
No, everything is reciprocal. Everything is reciprocal in the spiritual world.
Okay.
What does that mean, reciprocal?
I mean, so once you throw the ball, then like the ball goes to.
Like, for example, we have an example of that here. We offer food to Krishna. What happens to that food?
It goes in.
It comes back to us as Krishna's prasadam. Give me that. Put it over here. Just put it over here. Just throw it. Okay. So it comes back to us, right? As Krishna's mercy. So that's what's happening in the spiritual world.
I have a question.
So if a helium balloon floats up, does it go to Krishna?
No, because it's a material material world.
I said everything in the spiritual world goes to Krishna. But in the material world, everything is contained within Krishna. Because Krishna has the Virat Rupa, universal form. So nothing is independent. So if the helium balloon goes up, it's still contained within Krishna. It never goes outside of him. But see, that's the difference in the material world and the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, you see how everything is connected to Krishna. Now, when you develop spiritual consciousness in the material world, you will also see how everything, even here, is connected to Krishna. But right now, you're not seeing that because we've all been dumbed down by material knowledge. But if you continue to hear Bhagavad Gita, then you'll be able to develop that vision to see everything in relationship with Krishna. Okay, so Gödel, he proved that there are always going to be more things that are true than you can prove. Just like the 5 postulates of Euclid. You can't prove that they're absolutely true mathematically, but you accept them as truths because you can solve many problems with them. So Gödel was saying basically, you draw any circle, to understand that what's inside the circle, you have to go outside of the circle to understand it. You have to get information from outside. So this is called his incompleteness theorem. And it doesn't only apply to mathematics, it applies to everything. So this really shocked all the scientists and mathematicians in the world, because their false ego was convinced them that they could prove everything and they didn't need God. They didn't need some outside source. And here comes Gödel, and he proves that it's impossible to prove everything, that there will always remain certain things that they can't prove. Now, okay, give me that ball, put it right over here. Okay, give the cup with the ball, okay. Now, Mayapur, we're going to play 12 feet, so you sit over here. Okay. Now, don't face that way, you face this way. Okay, very good. All right, so now, remember this name, Gödel, G-O-D-E-L, right?
Gödel.
So, what he said shocked everyone. And actually, all science is based on assumptions that, for the most part, they can't prove. Like, for example, scientists believe that there's such things as black holes, right? Now, has anyone ever seen a black hole? No. Has anyone ever gone to a black hole? No, because you would die if you did, according to the definition of black hole. Okay? But they assume that there are such things as black holes. Black holes are things where an infinite amount of energy comes out of it, and an infinite amount of energy is absorbed into it. Right? So, you would not be able to physically see such a thing, because you would die immediately. Right?
So, a black hole can feel bigger than the Earth, or just eat the Earth and the sun?
Yes. Okay. And then scientists believe in the atomic theory, and they say there's electrons and protons and neutrons and so forth, and the electrons are going around the nucleus. Has anyone ever seen that? No, no one's ever seen it, right? But they assume it, and it helps them understand things, but they can't prove that that's absolutely true. Then someone else came up with the theory of waves, that at the basis of the material structure and the material world there are waves. They're just avoided the proton-neutron theory. Has anyone ever seen those waves? No. But they can see the effect of them, such as cell phones work on the basis of electromagnetic waves. But you can't actually see them. Like right now, do you see the electromagnetic waves going through this room?
No, but they have like a trillion of them.
How would you know? Yeah, because your cell phone works. You see? So scientists believe in things that they've never seen, and they can't absolutely prove that those things are true. But yet, by assuming that they are, they can solve a lot of problems. You see? So science is not different. I mean, modern science is not different than religion. Religions, they assume certain things are true. Just like Shivani was saying, if you want to read Bhagavad Gita, understand it, you have to assume that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So the scientists would say, "Oh, that's not science." But science is based on assuming things that they can't prove. And it's just like the 5 postulates of Euclid, black holes, wave theory, atomic theory. They can't absolutely prove that it's a fact. But by assuming that it's true, it helps them solve many problems. Put your hand down. Okay. So, we'll talk more about Gödel in the future, but he was a brilliant scientist, and most people don't know about him. You ever hear about him? No. He's more famous. I mean, actually, he did more significant things than Einstein. But they don't talk about him because he pulled the rug out underneath all the philosophers and mathematicians with his incompleteness theory. A theorem. It's not a theory. It's a theorem. A theorem is something that's proven without any doubt mathematically. And he proved without any doubt that it's impossible to attain completeness. You can attain consistency, but you can't attain completeness in any theory that you have. Right? Therefore, the scientists have never been able to achieve the theory of everything. And in physics, it's called the unified field theory. This was Einstein tried his whole life to come up with the unified field theory, and many other scientists have been trying up until now, and they cannot do it. And Gödel proved that it's impossible to do. That means that, now, let's go and do some research in the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
For example, all science is based on the assumption that nature has laws. Okay. Now, in the United States there are laws. Did the laws just come about by themselves? How do the laws come about in the United States or in India, for example? What did you say, Mayapur? Where's the microphone? Mayapur is going to say something that smells good now.
The president says.
Not exactly. It's the lawmakers are the Congress of the United States, the House of Representatives and the Senate. They make the laws, and the president he signs them, approves them. Right? He can suggest laws, but they have to be voted in by the Senate and the House of Representatives. So they're the lawmakers. Now, the scientists assume that there are laws in nature, and they're trying to discover them. but they say no one made it. Is that a logical statement?
No.
No, and it doesn't fit into. No, give it to him. Let him. It doesn't fit into. It doesn't correspond to Gödel's incompleteness theory. His theory says that if you put a circle around something, like we put a circle around Psi, right? Now, Psi is inside the circle. Can Psi explain who he is? No. He needs help with something outside of the circle called the Vedas. Then he can explain clearly who he is. You see? Now let's say we put a circle around the whole universe. Can the universe itself explain what it is? No. You would have to get help from outside. Now, Brahma was the first created being. What's the story of Brahma, Hari? You know?
Basically, he came out of...
Give him.
He was born on a lotus flower that came out of Vishnu's stomach, and when he was born, he didn't know what to do, so he just...
Well, was there creation at that time?
No, there was nothing.
The creation hadn't taken place yet. There was...
So he kept on meditating when he heard the words tapa from Vishnu, so he kept on meditating for, I don't know how long, but it was...
1,000 celestial years.
Yeah,
and then what happened?
And then Vishnu responded saying that Brahma is the creator, so Brahma created all the...
No, he heard Krishna's flute, and then he became enlightened with knowledge. Then he understood he's the eternal servant of Krishna, and he received the knowledge from Krishna how to get the time element, the 24 elements of material elements, and get them moving, and the modes of material nature, get them moving and interacting, and then he started creating. Then he populated the universe. He produced Prajapatis, and he's the original Prajapati, and they populated the universe with all the different species, and things got moving. He knew how to transform energy into matter, right? This is a mysterious thing, how energy can be transformed into matter and go back to energy again. Okay, so did he figure it out on his own? No. He got information from Krishna. Yeah.
Was that after he stole the gopas?
No.
Then, like, after, you said that after he heard Krishna's fruit, then he realized that he was the eternal servitor of Krishna.
Yes.
But then why did he steal the cowherd boys?
Okay, now you know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right?
Yeah.
But it's possible that you could go out and smoke marijuana. Isn't it?
Yeah.
If you begin to associate with people that smoke marijuana all the time,
yeah,
it's possible that you would do that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you know why Brahma tried to test Krishna to see if he's God.
So you're saying he was around people that that doubted Krishna as...
No, he wasn't, but he doubted Krishna because he was so powerful. He was so powerful that it was hard for him to imagine that this little boy, who's only like 5 years old, can be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he knew it, but he decided to play a trick on him to see what would happen.
Okay, so that when he heard Krishna's flute, was that when he was a little boy? Or?
No, he heard this. He didn't see Krishna, he just heard his flute. And then
okay.
He became enlightened with knowledge.
Okay.
Wait, so in that story that Yamuna explained, you know how Krishna's the Gopas, when they were like in the sleeping land, that sleeping land place.
Wait a minute. Speak clearly. I can't understand. You're mumbling.
Okay, so when like Krishna's friends were in the dream area kind of thing, where like they can get whatever they want and they're like sleeping and everything. You know how Krishna transformed himself into like the other gopas? So then like how did like, and then like when Brahma was looking at Krishna, like okay, to see how he's doing without his friends, when
Okay, we'll finish. You hold that thought. We'll finish after the opening of the deities. Jai Shri Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai.
It's just not done yet.
Should I be like, I should breathe.
Yashomati Nandana.
Once it's done, then put it down.
यशोमती नंदना ब्रजभरना घर गोकुल रंजना काना यशोमती नंदना ब्रजभरना घर गोकुल रंजना काना गोपी परन धना मदना मनोहरा गोपी परन धना मदना मनोहरा कालिया धमन विधाना कालिया धमन विधाना अमल हरिनाम ममिया विलासा अमल हरिनाम ममिया विलासा विपिन पुरंदर नवीन नगर भर विपिन पुरंदर नवीन नगर भर वंशी भदान सुआसा भज जन पालना सुरपुर नाशना भज जन पालना सुरपुर नाशना नंद गोधमन कुआला नंद गोधमन कुआला गोविंद माधव नवनीत दासकरा गोविंद माधव नवनीत दासकरा सुंदर नंद गोपाला सुंदर नंद गोपाला नाता चरा गोपी बसन हर रस रसिका कृपा मोरा गोपी बसन हर रस रसिका कृपा मोरा यमुना तत जल गोपी बसन हर रस रसिका कृपा मोरा गोपी बसन हर श्री राधा वल्लभ वृंदावन नाथ वर Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavananata Bhara Bhakti Vinodhashaya Bhakti Vinodhashaya Yashomati Nandana Braja Baranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yashomati Nandana Braja Baranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Parana Dhana Madana Manohara Gopi Parana Dhana Madana Manohara Kaliya Dhamana Bhidhana Yashomati Nandana Bhajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Ghoranitai Jaya Ghoranitai Ghoranitai Jaya Ghoranitai Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Shila Gurudeva Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Take over Premanande.
Okay, so Shivani was asking a question. You remember what your question is?
So when so when Brahma took Krishna's friends to like his area and where his friends were like sleeping and everything, you know how Krishna transformed like himself into like his friends, right? Like, yeah. So when in that part, so like how can Krishna play with himself? Like, how is that like possible? That's like, I don't know. I mean, like, how can Krishna play with himself?
Now the question, okay, I'm going to answer that. But first, you answer me a question. Can you do that yourself?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So this is why you're asking the question, because you can't do it.
But like, I'm just asking, like, how?
No, I know. I'm not blaming you, but I'm just saying, because you can't do it, I can't do it either. It's hard for us to believe that someone can do something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So therefore, Prabhupada has said, unless you accept Krishna, okay, how do you want to play 12 feet? Then don't disturb Sai. Meditate on what's being said. So, because we can't do it, our tendency is to assume nobody can do it. And then we hear that Krishna can do this thing that we can't do. So it's hard to believe it. Understand? And therefore Prabhupada said, unless you accept Krishna has infinite energies, you remain an atheist. That's why there's so many atheists in the world, because they just can't accept, their false ego doesn't let them accept that there's someone like Krishna who has infinite energies. Mm-hmm. He can do things that it's impossible for us to do. Okay. So, Krishna, like you are an expansion of Krishna's energy. I am an expansion of Krishna's energy. The material world is an expansion of Krishna's energy. And not only that, Krishna expands himself into every atom of the universe. And he also expands himself into the heart of every living entity. And all on top of all that, he contains everything within his universal body called the Virat Rupa. And more than that, everything is resting on his effulgence called the Brahma Jyoti. He's doing all these things. We can't even do one of those things. Right? So, due to the false ego, it's very hard to believe it, because then we have to accept there's someone greater than me. And the false ego says, I'm the greatest in the world. So, once we purify this false ego and we come to the real ego, and now we're going to hear how this happened to Brahma. In the Brahma Samhita, verse 24, it says, 23 it says, on coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by the divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions. But he could see nothing but darkness in every direction. So Brahma, just put your hand down and listen. Brahma comes out of, is created mentally by Garbhodaksha Vishnu. But it's all darkness everywhere. It doesn't see anything. So you can't figure out who he is. Let's say you're in a dark room from the first day you were born. Could you understand what is the world?
Nope.
Could you understand who you are? Okay. So that's Brahma's situation, right? When he was first appeared. He couldn't understand anything because everything was dark. There was no creation yet. There was no light. But he had an impulse to create. And this is due to his previous life. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, all jivas get their nature based on their impressions of previous births, and accordingly, their activity can have a beginning. it is called the unseen, or the result of one's previous deeds. His natural impulse is formed according to the nature of the deeds done by him in the previous kalpa, or previous life. Some of the eligible jivas also attain to the office of Brahma, or the position of Brahma. Okay, so Brahma has this impulse, or this feeling, that he should create, because it's coming from his previous life. So now, then the goddess of learning, Saraswati, the divine consort of the Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions, O Brahma, this mantra, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Swaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. So Saraswati reveals this mantra. This is called the Kama Bija mantra.
What is it?
Kama Bija. Bija means a seed, and Kama means what? You were not listening then. Is that right?
It was Klim Krishnaya Govindaya.
Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Swaha.
That's what you want.
Okay. So the mantra, or this mantra, consisting of 18 divine letters prefixed to the Kama, by the Kama Bija, is alone super excellent. It has a twofold aspect. One aspect is that it tends to make the pure soul run after all attractive Sri Krishna. So if you repeat this mantra, Krim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Swaha, you'll develop a tremendous attraction for Krishna. Okay, Mayapur, what is it? Only one question every 5 minutes. What's this question? Then you have to wait 5 minutes again.
So if you go back to Godhead, we're greater than Brahma because Brahma takes birth again, right?
In a sense, but you should never think you're greater than anyone. You should always think that you are the servant of everyone, right? Because if you think you're greater than everyone, then you'll become puffed up and you'll become a complete nonsense, right? Right now you're only partially nonsense, but it's when you think you're better than everyone else, you become a complete nonsense. Yes, Sai.
He paid obeisances to the sages and then left the airplane because he had gratitude. Even though he was in a higher position than the sages, he still paid obeisances to them.
Yeah, a devotee always thinks that he's the servant, not that he's the greatest and everybody should be his servant. Okay, so yeah, if you say this mantra, it tends to make the pure soul run after the all-attractive Sri Krishna. Okay, Yamuna, let's listen, please. No, 5 minutes is not up. You have to wait 5 minutes to ask a question. Mayapur has a permission to ask a question once every 5 minutes. It's starting right now, so look at the clock. It's 5 after 9, so 10 after 9 you can ask a question. Okay. Yeah. So, this is the highest achievement that a jiva can attain. That is, running after the all-attractive Lord Krishna. When the devotee is free from all sorts of mundane desires and willing to serve the Lord, he attains the fruit of his heart's desire, love of Krishna. But in the case of the devotee who has mixed desires, some material, some spiritual, can you stop talking, Mayapur? A devotee who has mixed desires, this mantra can fulfill those desires also. The transcendental Kama Bija is inherent in the divine realm of Goloka, and the Kama Bija, pervertedly reflected in the worldly affairs, satisfies all sorts of desires of this mundane world. So, if we repeat this mantra with material desires, then we might get those material desires, but that'll only keep us longer in the material world. But if we repeat this mantra, Kim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Namaha, with pure desires, then we'll become more and more attracted to Krishna. And we will be running after Krishna all the time. Yes?
It's not about attraction, but how are Maharajas so humble?
How are who so humble?
Maharaj.
Which
So-
Maharajas?
No, so when Dhruva Maharaj, he knows that he's on a higher position than the Maharajas, the sages, but then I know, but he still has gratitude, like what Sai said. He still has gratitude to them, so that's why he paid his respects. But then how does he keep such how does he stay so humble? Because it's so hard when
Okay,
when you
answer.
know.
Chunadapi suni chena tarur api sahisnana amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. What does that mean? What? Say it slowly into the microphone. Slowly.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong and street. One should be devoid of all false prestige. One should be more tolerant than tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to give all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord properly.
Does that answer your question?
No, but then
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind.
How do you attain that state of mind and keep it like that forever? Maybe sometimes it's very difficult to keep that humble state of mind. So how was he able to keep that state of mind?
You're talking about
All
Dhruva
the
Maharaj?
time. Yeah. Any Maharaj, most Maharaj.
Well, no, not any Maharaj, any person. First of all, you attain that position by constantly chanting Hare Krishna. And number two, the more you learn about Krishna, the more you become convinced that you could never be equal to or greater than Krishna.
But some people might think that I am such a great devotee. I chant 16, I do all this service for Krishna, and they might think of themselves greater than someone else.
Therefore, if they begin to think like that, it's because they've become ignorant. They forgot that Krishna is the greatest. See, as soon as you accept that there's someone greater than you and you could never be equal to them, you become humble. Because you realize no matter what you do, see, this is why the scientists and the philosophers, they don't like to talk about this man named Kurt Gödel, because he proved to them mathematically that they could never achieve the perfect, prove everything perfectly. They'll always be incomplete. So, but we come to the same conclusion by regularly hearing about Krishna. We realize that we could never be equal to or greater than Krishna. Now, what is a symptom of a materialistic person? The materialistic person thinks that by his intelligence, by his money, by his powerful influence, he can become God. But a devotee understands that he can never become God, but he can become the servant of God. And therefore he remains humble. As soon as you think that you're more intelligent, more powerful, more rich, then you become subject to the false ego, and due to the false ego you develop ignorance and forgetfulness. Krishna gives you knowledge, but if you become arrogant, he takes the knowledge away from you. So everything is dependent on Krishna, the knowledge and ignorance. So when you become puffed up, Krishna gives you forgetfulness and you become ignorant. When you're humble, Krishna gives you knowledge and you develop good memory to remember always, I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. You understand? Oh, wait a minute, you have to wait another 3 minutes.
No, it's already 9.
Yeah, but you missed asking it at 9:10, so you have to wait 5 minutes.
I was raising
No, you raised your hand after 9:10, so you have to wait till 9:15 now. I'm the lawmaker. Okay, so does that answer your question, Vishaka, or are you still doubtful? It answers your question? In other words, if you always remember Krishna, then you always remember that you're subordinate to Krishna. Now what did we just read? We just read that Brahma receives a message from Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. And she says, if you chant this mantra, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, then it'll fulfill your heart's desires. So what does this mantra say? It says that Krishna, or Govinda, the protector of the cows, is the most dear person to the gopis, and they are basically his eternal servants. So if you meditate on the gopis who are serving Krishna 100% with love and devotion, and that Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, Govinda, then all your spiritual desires will be fulfilled. And even if you, it's not 9:15 yet.
Yeah, it was on his
No, his watch is not exactly right.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is.
Okay. We're going by that watch. Okay, so, all right, Mayapur gets a chance to ask a question. Go ahead.
So, if you chant that, what's it called again?
Kama Bija, Gayatri Mantra.
Yeah. And if you want to desire to go back to Godhead when you die, and if you're not thinking of Krishna.
But no, wait a minute, you don't die, only your body dies.
When your body.
Oh yeah. When your body dies, do you know how like you said
But Prabhupada explained there's no difference between the spiritual world and the temple. Because the temple is a place where you're engaged in devotional service. So you're already back to Godhead.
But
Okay. I answer your question. Go ahead.
So basically, you could chant the Kama Bija mantra and desire that you want to stay in the temple always, right, Prabhuji? You could desire that, right?
You would want to say, I want to always be engaged in your service, Krishna, whether I'm in the temple or outside the temple. Okay? And yeah, and Krishna will satisfy that desire. Now, if you say the mantra with mixed desires, right? Half material, half spiritual. What happens then? Huh? What? No, what happens is you will get some of your material desires, but that only keeps you in the material world. It doesn't give you freedom from the modes of material nature, the time factor, and karma. Why? What is it that keeps us in the material world? It's the modes of material nature. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. The three.
Microphone.
The material nature.
Microphone. Microphone.
Microphone.
Material desires and the three modes of material nature, and
the laws of karma, the time factor, right? The time factor, the modes of material nature, karma.
Karma, yeah. No.
It's
It's like 7 things that keep you in the material world.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. What are they?
I know it.
Wait. The material attachments.
Time, karma.
Time, karma, what?
Desires.
Desires. Material.
Natural disaster.
No.
Wait.
Tango.
Okay, so the big ones are the 3 modes of material nature, the time factor, and karma. Then there's material attachments, material desires, material attachments, okay? So that's 5.
Tango.
Huh? We already said that. Okay, well, you keep looking for your notes. So now we're going to continue reading this. So Saraswati tells Brahma, practice spiritual association by means of this mantra, then all your desires will be fulfilled. What does this mean? Aditya, what does this mean? Aditya. Agastya, what does this mean? Let me read it again. Saraswati tells Brahma, O Brahma, practice spiritual association by means of this mantra, then all your desires will be fulfilled. Which mantra is he talking about?
The mantra that we were discussing.
Yes. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Namaha. Okay. So what is achieved by saying this mantra? What is achieved?
You get your desires.
No, what's achieved is association, spiritual association with Krishna. Right? Just like when you chant Hare Krishna, who are you associating with?
Krishna.
Yes, also. And by that association, by keeping your mind fixed on Krishna, then all your spiritual desires will be fulfilled. So what is it when it's not 9:20? It passed. You have to wait till 9:25. Yes. So, okay, don't put the Bhagavad Gita on the ground. Don't put it on your feet. Okay. So, by this mantra is non-different than Krishna. The Hare Krishna mantra is non-different than Krishna, and this Gayatri Kama Bij mantra is non-different than Krishna. Yes? It is the seed of love.
Seed of love.
Pure love, yes. In the material world, kama means lust. In the spiritual world, that lust becomes pure love. The pure love becomes lust by association with the modes of material nature. Just like a pure drop of rain, as soon as it just touches the ground, it mixes with mud. But while it was falling, it was a pure drop of water. So if once it's evaporated, it goes back into the cloud, it becomes pure water again. Yes, the seed of pure love for Krishna, not just pure love. That Mayavadi philosophy is pure for Krishna, yes. No, you're meditating on the gopis' super excellent love and devotion for Krishna. Gopi Jana Vallabhaya. Gopis are very dear to Krishna. Yeah. So we can't go directly to Krishna. We can only go through Guru and this parampara, and eventually the gopis who introduce us, who train us how to serve Krishna with love and devotion. It's a tremendous training in culture. Because you have to cook for Krishna, sing for Krishna, dance for Krishna, dress for Krishna. And you have to do everything for Krishna. You have to learn how to do that. It's becoming perfect in the 64 arts that are described here in the Brahma Samhita. Okay, Mayapur, you're going to miss 9:25. You won't be able to ask a question. All right, so then Brahma, let's finish this. Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka. What are those cultural acts? Anybody know what those cultural acts are? Yamuna, you know what the cultural
Singing
acts
and dancing for Krishna.
You know what the cultural acts are, Yamuna?
Being cultural.
So you teach a cultural act. What is that? Okay, so what are cultural acts? If playing a mridanga is a cultural act, what are other cultural acts?
Playing a tabla.
Dressing, cooking, singing, dancing, writing, poetry. There's 64 cultural acts that the gopis need to know in order to serve Krishna with love and devotion. So Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka for a long time. His meditation ran like this. Now this is Brahma's meditation. Okay, Prabhalika, listen. Prabhalika, listen. This was Lord Brahma's meditation. Okay, Mayapur, you're supposed to be sitting over here, right? Give the microphone to Prabhuji. Give it to Amit. So now we're going to hear what Brahma's meditation is. You ready? You going to listen? No, you did some nonsense, so that also is an X. You can't ask a question now for 10 minutes as soon as you do nonsense. Okay. This is Brahma's meditation. Are you listening, Shivani? What? We're listening to Brahma's meditation. Just listen carefully. There exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments, in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its whorl means the center of it, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Lord Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays aside, meaning he's talking about Maya now, embodying all mundane qualities. So this is Brahma's meditation, right? So what is your understanding of Brahma's meditation? About the Prabhuji, huh? What? I said, what is Brahma's meditation? What is he meditating on? A potato? What is he meditating? I just read it just now. Were you listening? No. Okay. All right. So, okay. Can anyone answer the question? What is Brahma meditating on? Anyone want to venture? Yes. Give her the microphone.
Okay, so I think it's about when Brahma when he like recited the Brahma Samhita, like okay, never mind.
That was a stink, right? Okay, can anyone answer this question? I just read it. And I asked you all to be quiet and listen. Yes. Go ahead. Give her the microphone.
So Brahma was meditating upon Krishna's pastimes, and he was meditating upon like how Krishna was sitting on a golden throne, and then there's like a lot of gopis, and then they're serving him, and then his external potency was also with him.
Who's that external?
Maya.
Maya, yeah, but she's at a distance.
Yeah.
And he was. Let me read it again. So listen carefully, and then I'm going to ask the question again. What was Brahma meditating on? Anyway, you answered very well. You answered very well. Okay. Are you ready? And this is Brahma Samhita, verse number. Verse number 25. Okay? So now listen carefully, Yamuna. Try not to divert your attention to loose leaf booklets, okay? Brahma meditated in the following way. There exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its whorl, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Lord Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound, with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. So even Durga Mata is worshipping him, but she does it from a distance. It's not 9:30 yet. So, there's a verse, Chintamani prakada satmasu kalpa vriksha laksha britesu surabhirabi palayantam lakshmi sahasra satasambrahma sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So this verse says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. So, more or less, Brahma is seeing the same thing in his meditation. It's not 9:30 yet. You have another minute. Okay. Okay, what's your question? Go ahead. Hold the microphone to your mouth, and now say something. Okay, if you can't think of the question, then you can't ask a question for 20 minutes.
Why do they still have those balloons there?
Okay, that's a stupid question. So 20 minutes now. You can't ask a question until 10 to 10. But by then we'll be having prasadam, so you can't ask a question until tomorrow. Okay. So anyway, now we know what Brahma is meditating on. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Today we discussed a lot of things. We discussed Gödel's theorem of inconsistency, and we discussed epistemology. We discussed the story of Brahma and how he became enlightened. We discussed the 7 principles of the 7 reasons why people are entangled in the material world. So Shivani, did you find the 2 that are missing?
First is karma, then it's time, then it's material desires, then it's the 3 molds of material nature, and then it's the material miseries, and then that's 5.
Time. You said time?
Yes. 3 modes of material nature that keep you in this world. Yeah, we couldn't figure out the last 2.
The last one, I think the 7th one is like...
hate, anger, greed, jealousy.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Oh yeah, and the sixth one is
Yes.
it not knowing that you're the soul, like knowing.
Okay.
And then sixth one is like.
No. The sixth one
What?
is we don't know.
That one.
Okay. So, let's analyze Mayapur. How many of those 7 is he subject to? No, I don't think he has lust or, he's got anger sometimes. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We covered a lot of things today. And get your notes from last week. Get the notes from last week, right? You haven't printed out? Okay, so ask Anandaram Prabhu for the notes from last week. Hare Krishna.
Yeah,